Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Recipe with Dr. Stephanie Finney. It is my hope that through each segment, you will receive ingredients to live your best life. One seasoning I am personally passionate about is in the area of health and wellness. In fact, I host an Instagram Live on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time titled, Do You Know What's in Your Feminine Care? But I will speak more about this at the end of the show. Today, I have a very special guest. Not only is she a mother, a motivator, and friend to many, she is also an author and an educator. Welcome, Dr. Katrina Sparks, to The Recipe. Hello, Dr. Sparks.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Finney. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Super
Absolutely.
excited.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm on
Great.
vacation this week. I'm enjoying my time. You know, this is a busy time. This is a time to be with family and friends. So I'm enjoying this time. The weather is breaking finally.
Finally.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Although it's supposed to be cold where I'm at tomorrow and Saturday, but it's supposed to be nice on Sunday. So
snow, like rain, snow. We're getting like the rain, snow. We're getting wind here. I'm in New York, so right now we're getting wind. Yesterday was nice. You know, the weather is like up and down. That's Mother Nature for you.
That's it. Well, welcome to The Recipe.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Thank you for joining us. Please take some time and tell everybody more about who you are, what you do, and why.
Okay. So my name is Dr. Katrina Renee Sparks. I am an educator. I have been in education, special education. I work with the special needs population for 27 and a half, going on 28 years, coming this year. Early intervention for 17 years. I am a special education teacher. I am a therapist. I do early intervention. Actually, I work with children from birth to 3 years of age, children who have developmental delays or children who have been classified on the spectrum, children with intellectual delays, any type of developmental delays. I work with those children. I have a background in speech, so it varies. It depends on what I'm needed for. The area, my scope is in speech, special education, ABA, applied behavior analysis. That is a form of therapy used for children who have been diagnosed on the spectrum or have been diagnosed with autism. I also do evaluations. I evaluate the children. Based on referrals, parents will call and request evaluations to determine what areas of that their children may need therapy in. And I'm also an advocate. I am a mother. What I do is a personal and professional. I am the mother of an adult son who was diagnosed at the age of 3.5 on the spectrum, highly functional. He's an adult living life, and we're just navigating through this thing called life.
Awesome. Well, I want to say hello to Tisa Sapphire, who just tuned in. And so I want to make sure I acknowledge anyone who tunes in. Thank you so much.
Hi, Tisa. Thank
you. Absolutely. Well, education is a calling and not a career. So what made you decide to become an educator, and when did you choose this field?
Well, actually, when I was in high school, I always thought about education, always liked children. Then for a while, when you're in high school, getting ready to transition into college, you said, no, you start changing your mind. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. And I was leaning towards law. My first year of college, I attended upstate, which was SUNY at Oswego, and started taking some classes in education. Became very passionate about education, wanted to work with children, love children, just like the whole process of learning and, learning from the children and, teaching in general. I started off, then I actually switched from there and came back. I transferred back to the city because I wanted to go to school in the city, came a little homesick, and started hearing about speech pathology, working with children and adults with language delays or any type of language disorders, and started working with that. And during that time, I believe it was my last year of college, actually. And at that time, I had my son. My son was 2.5, I'm going to say going on 3. And that's when I received the diagnosis. So I kind of put speech on hold for a while. I had filled out, I did all of the requirements, fulfilled all the requirements, and kind of was more concerned and working towards to making sure my son was getting evaluated. We were just going through the whole process. From there, I applied for a position because at the time I was graduating, I was a single mom, and I needed to work. So I started working for New York City Board of Education as a special education teacher. So I put speech on hold, started doing special education, working with children within the special education population, and kind of navigated. So as my son was going through the system, I was going through the system, I was learning and he was learning, and we were both learning together and navigating through the system. We had some highs, we had some lows, we had some good, we had some bad, we had some ugly, some not so. So I learned a lot. He learned a lot. I learned a lot about him. I learned about what children need, the needs of these children, the need of the parents. Parents definitely need advocates. Definitely being a therapist or being a provider within the field is more important to know what you are doing, to be well, I say, well diverse, and just know everything you need to know. And always, that's constantly having to always go back to school or anything new. You just have to keep up with everything that's going on when you're in in this field, because it's constantly changing. We're constantly every day learning something about autism. There's always something new based on scientific theory, based on what psychologists and psychiatrists. So I'm constantly learning every day. So I believe I'm still learning as I'm going on. Even though I plan on retiring soon, I'm still learning and I'm still reading and I'm still growing. And my son is he's learning and he's growing, and we're still navigating to make sure, even though he's an adult, to make sure his services, he's working and he's doing what he needs, anything that he's entitled to make sure that those are being addressed and he's getting the necessary resources.
Wow. Listening to you, I can remember growing up, and I'm trying to phrase this correctly. There was always, someone in the classroom who may not have been able to learn things as quickly as everybody else, but we just kind of moved them into the shuffle and they just came along. And then all of a sudden in the 90s, it seemed like they started talking about autism. And we were like, what is that? Where did that come from? And then also like allergies with food, like every child started having peanut allergies and things like that. And it was like, where did this come from? I guess I'm asking you, in what you said as a parent, and how this has evolved. Can you explain some of the changes from that? Because I remember all of a sudden hearing about autism one day, and it was like, where did that come from? And now it's a known term, and we get it, and we're still learning. And but we're still learning about how that transitions in the classroom and children and the spectrum. Can you explain that, please?
Okay. Well, autism, of course, is a developmental disorder, actually. Okay. It has to actually cognitive. It affects the speech. It affects your physical, fine motor. A lot of children who are diagnosed, they receive speech, special instruction, ABA services, physical therapy, and PT. It's a neurological, actually. Let me just rephrase that. So autism is actually a neurological disorder. Neurological, we know, is associated with the brain. So it affects overall the speech, cognitive, how a child learns, physical. Children, a lot of times, not many, but a lot of children who are on the spectrum may walk late. Some of them walk on their toes. Fine motor, they're not able to tie, they're not open to do simple things like open buttons, zipping, anything that requires fine motor skills. Writing, that becomes a challenge as well. And I'm going to take it back with autism. With autism back then, it was considered any child who was diagnosed, they were actually put in a psych ward. Okay. And many years ago, when children that were considered labeled different were put in the psych ward. Many years ago, they were put away because they were considered unteachable, and that they thought that these children would never be able to function in life. And during that time also, autism was associated with the mother, that saying that they call it, I believe, the refrigerator mother, meaning that referring to the mother was very cold. They felt that if you were not loving and you during your pregnancy times, or you were just not loving in general, that played a factor in why a child was diagnosed with autism. Yes. People don't know that. If you go way, way back, long time ago, children were put in psych wards. They put them in psychiatric wards, and it was considered, and all the blame got placed on the mom. And if she was considered a refrigerator mom, meaning she was cold, that she didn't take because of she didn't have that bond and that loving protection, or that, you know, that warmth and the nurturing that a mother gives, that was associated of why the child was labeled or, you know, diagnosed being on the spectrum. Since then, it's been controversy back and forth whether or not it's the environment in certain areas where I service children. I noticed that in certain areas, and still research is still being done on this. Certain areas we have a large population of children who are diagnosed on the spectrum. A lot of times they say that the shots, again, controversial. We don't know. We can be on here for hours. There's back and forth, and it's been a heated debate for years whether or not vaccinations are associated to why children are on the spectrum. It is something that they're constantly researching, and hopefully one day we will get some answers. It is not curable. Okay. A lot of people feel that, your children, once they receive the necessary services like ABA and early intervention, and, once they're diagnosed early and they get the services, we can do certain things to help them to adapt. But there is no cure for autism. It's not like a curable disease or anything like that. So I want parents to be very sure about that, to know that it is not like, oh, my child is cured. It is neurological. It affects the brain. So somehow your child is able to function, but certain things have been put for certain resources, the speech, the special instruction, the ABA, the physical therapy, if children, sometimes they need to see a psychologist, because sometimes what happens, depending on the level of autism, because back then it used to be labeled, now it's mild, moderate, and severe, because autism is so broad. And they also talk about Asperger's. Again, it's so broad, and we're learning we're learning something new every day. Some children, they develop psychosis where it affects them. It leads to mental issues and mental challenges, and that may require medication, again, by the parent's choice, of course, depending on the severity. Some decide on seeing children. Some children see psychologists, some children see psychiatrists, and some require medication. And again, it all depends. It all depends on the child. It depends on the services. And again, I always say that with any child, children, they can't, my children, especially that I've seen, when I start from the beginning to the end, I notice a big difference. But I always say, as cliche as it may sound, it always takes a village to raise a child. We have to work together. Parents can't expect the therapist to come in and work magic, because it's not magic. We have to work together. We have to work together to ensure that the child is getting the services and the child is reaching the necessary milestones, whatever programs or things that are put in place. Usually with children, they have an IFSP for early intervention. IFSP is the individual family service plan. It's a plan where a service coordinator is a person, a liaison that works with the parent and the therapist to ensure that the child has reaching certain goals. Okay, when the child leaves from that and transitions into the age of 3, it's called CPSE, which is the Committee for Preschool Special Education. That is from 3 to 5. And then we have CSE, which is the Committee for Special Education. Here, that's how it is in New York. I don't know if it's in any other. And as they start to go, the children then receive a legal document. It is legal, it's confidential. Only those parties involved, the therapist and the school and the parents, receive this. And that's an individual educational plan. And that lines up what the child needs. It has to do with their scores, social history, medical history, all of that stuff is documented, things that the teacher, the therapist, and everyone needs to work on. I hope I'm covering everything. I hope I'm touching everything. I'm trying to touch everything to make sure.
No, you are. You are. Absolutely. And thank you again, Ms. Sapphire. We're seeing you come across the screen. I just always want to acknowledge anyone that tunes in. So thank you. Dr. Sparks, it sounds to me like with reference to education for children with special needs, or really, it has nothing to do with special needs. It feels like collaboration is key, period, and whether that's, the community to include parents, how do parents play? I mean, it would sound like common sense that parents would be involved, but do you deal with situations where there are issues where the parent is not as involved or can't be involved? Or how do you see the difference in those where there is not as much collaboration with the parents and those that are? How big of a difference do you see?
Every case is different.
Mm-hmm.
I've had situations where I've had parents where they're both parents in the household, the mother and the father in the household.
Mm-hmm.
You may have the mother who may agree and is on board. You may have a father, and I've had some in some cases. I've had some where it is a cultural difference. In certain cultures, this is frowned upon. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's not look, especially if it's a male child. But again, that's a whole nother subject and topic. In certain cultures, it's frowned upon, especially I've had the first male child. And because the father came from a certain culture, it was frowned upon. Oh, we don't believe in that. We don't believe in it. And I've had it where a child was actually diagnosed. And once the mother knew that something was not quite right, she knew something was off and she was for it. But the dad was like, no, no, no. And they kept going back and forth. And finally, when the father did agree and the child was diagnosed, the father ended services. So it's cases like that that really bother me, because I wonder what's going to happen to that child, whether or not eventually will the father come around, will eventually the child get the necessary services. And we hope that, it's not too late. And in some cases, I've had it where, and I think I've had it in like about 2 or 3 cases, where a lot of times the parents will send the children back to their countries and they will take them to doctors. Okay. Depending on what your religion and what your background is, a lot of them believe in, I'm going to be very honest, because I believe in transparency. They will take them in to go see, priests, the doctors, to pray it off for them, or to give them something. And, we try to explain to the parents, it has nothing to do with that. You can pray. I mean, that is your choice to pray,
Yeah.
and whatever your belief is, but you can't fight an evil. A lot of them believe it's a spirit. It's evil spirits, and they need to get the evil spirit out of their child so their child can be, quote unquote, what society considers norms. So I think with that, all cases vary. I've had some where I've had parents who are like on board. What you want to do, what you want me to get,
Yeah.
whatever you want, Dr. Sparks.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've had parents that actually, I come into the home and I've given back cases because of this. I'm not saying that I know everything, but I know enough. You are the parent and you know your child. Okay. And I respect that, but let me come in and do my job. I need for us to work together. Okay. It can't be effective if you don't allow me to do my job. And I need for you as the parent to reinforce and review whatever I've learned over. You just can't expect therapists to come into the home and to just do everything and then you don't do anything. It's just like with education. It's like with teaching. Your child is sent home. The teacher assigns and gives work or gives homework. And what do? You go over as the parent, if you're capable of doing so, and review the work with your child. You reinforce. All it is reviewing and
Yeah.
reinforcing what your child already learned with the expert, the teacher, the therapist. That's what I like for my parents to do. That's all I ask them. And I get some parents, like I said, each case varies. I've had wonderful cases. I have cases to this very day. I actually had several families. A lot of my kids now, I started off when I first got into early intervention. They were like 1, 2 years old. Now they're 17, 18, getting ready to graduate graduate from high school, actually. And I have some who, I have one of my former clients, one of my babies. Well, he's not a baby, but he is a baby. They'll always be my babies.
Yes.
He was diagnosed on the spectrum. He is doing wonderful in high school. He is thriving. Then I've had other clients that graduated. They've gone on to a general ed class and everything. They just need a speech or whatever. So when I hear cases like that, or they call me or they'll text me and send me pictures of when they were babies and now they're like grown and they're like taller than me, that makes me feel good. That makes it feel like what I've done, is working. I've done what I'm supposed to do. Like I said, every case varies. All cases varies. But for the most part, I'm going to say I have cooperative parents and I love what I do. And I make it very clear I am, we all have to make a living, but I'm not so much into it for the money. If I get assigned a case or I will, and if I feel it's not working, it's just not gelling, because sometimes it happens all the time. Sometimes therapists and children just don't, I can't work with that child because it's just not working. It's not a good fit. I will give it back. It's not always about the money or whatever. Let someone else, maybe someone else can go ahead and take that case and do what I wasn't able to do. But 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty successful with my children. And I speak to my children a lot, and they will call me, and I get a lot of calls from the parents, because when they transition and they go to school, they're looking for me because they call me, the kids call me Miss Cat, Miss Cat. So they were like, Miss Cat's not here. Or if they see a teacher who kind of looks like me, that's not Miss Cat. That's not what Miss Cat does. So now I'm getting the phone calls, and I have to go in there and talk to the kids. Or one of my parents was like, I'm going to put you on an emergency card list, because at this point, she's looking for you and she's giving her teacher a hard time. I need you to go in there. So I've developed different relationships with different families, and it's wonderful. I just love all my babies, and I just love the process. And I just, from the time that they started, from ones who couldn't walk, who couldn't talk. I've had children. I have this one little girl who I adore, but because of COVID, and she's been trying to get with me, I don't see her anymore. She was born under a pound. They said, her survival rate was little or nothing. And she was born under a pound. She couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. She couldn't do anything. Now you can't get her to stop talking. She's chatty, 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 chatty. She looks at me. She's looking for me. Miss Cat, where are you? Miss Cat, I like your glasses. She's very observant. So I would like to think in between that therapy, when we were having those conversations, she was listening. So those are the cases. Those are the cases that I really, really like. Those are my babies. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with Dr. Sparks.
Okay.
Hey, it's your girl Lisa Renee, and I want to tell you about a product that has changed my life. Rain Premium Sanitary Napkins. Rain products are infused with a Nobel Prize-winning material called graphene. It's the graphene strip that provides the various health benefits that can improve your quality of life during that time of the month. Listen, I've been very loyal to a certain brand of feminine products, but I've never experienced the results I get with Rain products. The difference is in the graphene strip. Using Rain products has totally eliminated the painful cramps I experience, and it can also help balance your body's pH, eliminate harmful bacteria, and help fight fatigue. Graphene moves heat away from your core to keep you cool and comfortable. Ladies, it's time to upgrade your feminine care with products that not only offer protection, but also improve your health and wellness. Place your order today and receive your premium sanitary napkins delivered directly to your door. Visit www.drfcare.com to make your purchase today. And don't forget to mention that your girl Lisa Dene and Stunner Radio sent you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Recipe with Dr. Sparks, author and educator.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been having an awesome conversation. And
yes, we have. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and based on what you've said so far, I guess my thought is, what advice would you give to someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours?
It's funny. I just had this conversation with someone. Someone just asked me the same question. And, I'm on the fence about that, because I'm going to put it this way.
Okay.
What I do now, the time when I came in, things are changing. It's not like those who are entering into the career phase, as I'm slowly trying to go into the retirement phase, things are different. So I'm telling my advice to anyone who wants to pursue the career of education, especially working with the special needs population, whether it's speech, occupational therapy, PT, any type of related services, you have to have thick skin. And when I say that, is times have changed. There is a demand and there is a need within all of those areas, the related service areas that I mentioned. The requirements have changed. There is more requirements because we're seeing so many children being diagnosed. So now the schooling has changed, the requirements. It varies from state to state. For myself, of course, I went back for a doctorate. That was a choice. The educational, again, the requirements, everything has changed. Like I said, I'm retiring soon, so I don't know what the requirements are. Again, they vary from state to state. I would say anyone to definitely do your research. Speak to people within the field. Speak to people who are truthful and honest. Because like with any field, you're going to have some good days. You're going to have some not so good days. You're going to have some days where you question, did I really go to school for this? Going to be honest. But you're going to see the rewards. So you have to understand it has to be self-gratification. Because and then at the same time, it has to be making sure that you make a difference. Anything that you do, you want to do your job, but you also want to make a difference, especially when you're dealing with children. These are children that are going to, when we're no longer here, they're going to lead and be a part of this world. They're going to be a part of the population. This is the next generation. So we need to prepare our next generation, regardless of whatever delays or any diagnosis that they have, because they still have to function in the world. So my advice is definitely research. Speak to people within the field. Speak to parents. Definitely visit different classrooms, whether it's the classroom setting, the hospital setting, where you plan on working, with the environment you plan to work. Definitely visit. Definitely, if you can shadow someone, you get permission. Definitely shadow someone to see someone actually working, doing, in action, working with children, so you get an idea of what it's like.
That's great advice. When you were starting out, how did you deal with the doubts, as you talked about, am I really cut out for this? Am I able to do this? And the fear of failing, for lack of a better word.
With me, because I had a son who was diagnosed, failure wasn't an option. I didn't have any choice, because at this point, not only did I have to provide for myself, I had to lead by example, my son, because he needed me more than ever. Not only, again, was I within the field, I needed to make sure by staying in the field and making those connections that I made sure that he was getting the necessary services and he was getting the best education possible, because I was his advocate. And the best way you can do that is actually being in the field. You're there. We're both I'm going to say it was like a war sometimes. We were both in the trenches. Because it's a war sometimes, because, with anything, a lot of times as professionals, and I'll say this among my colleagues, some of my colleagues they are for children, but unfortunately we have those that I question why they entered the field. I believe, again, let's be honest and let's be truthful. There are some people within any profession, I wonder what made them go into the field. But again, that's not my reason. But I had to make sure that he had the necessary teachers, therapists, related services to make sure he was getting, and he wasn't just getting, passed through the system, because we hear about it all the time. A lot of our Black and brown children, especially our boys, because it is 1 out of 54 boys that are diagnosed with autism, and 1 out of 88 children are diagnosed. Majority are boys, and we hear about it all the time, where a lot of them do not graduate from high school. They go on and they drop out, leads to crime, to other things. A lot are in jail, incarcerated, and other things. And I did not want him to be a part of that, to be a part of the statistics, to be a part of the system, or being labeled in that. I made sure that I was his advocate, and I made sure he got what he was supposed to get. That was important.
No, absolutely. You hit on something about boys and girls and the scale and the statistics. Can you explain that a little more? Because this is the first that I've ever heard of that. As far as I've heard about it, as far as minority children, Black and brown children, but I've never heard about boys and girls.
Yes. So it's 1 out of 88 children are diagnosed. 1 out of 54 are boys. But again, it keeps changing, because we get statistics all the time. The ratios change all the time. And majority of boys, even with the majority of my babies that I see have been boys. Again, a lot of the boys that I see start off with speech delay. It varies, but I get the majority of my clients are boys. It's just a delay in boys. And again, that's something that's being studied, and we don't know why the delay is. And again, we get a lot of times, I said, parents are on board. Some parents are not on board. Oh, he's just being a boy. He'll grow out of it. We can't wait for him to grow out. And all children are different. You can't always tell parents to, well, my friend and my other children are different. Okay, you can't compare because this child, your child did this, or your friend's child. You can't go by that. You definitely can't go by that. And I always urge parents that parents do not know There is a difference between a pediatrician and a developmental pediatrician. And again, I'm not knocking anyone within the medical field. I commend them for their jobs. A lot of pediatricians have been spot on, that they know when to see that something's not quite right. And I get it from a lot of my clients. They will say, well, my pediatrician saw my son and he said at this age he should be doing certain things. So we made the referral for him to get evaluated for to see whether or not the child qualified for early intervention. Then you get, depending on the pediatrician, and again, oh, he's just being, he'll go around to, he's just being a kid, he'll, as he starts to get older, he'll develop more, don't worry about it. And I've had cases where I've had pediatricians to tell parents that, and out of those, I'm going to say out of 2 of my cases, the children turned out later to be diagnosed on the spectrum. So that's another thing. So I'm not saying, again, I'm not going against the pediatricians. Like I said, some pediatricians, they know they're spot on. You could discuss it with the pediatricians and they will give you the necessary information for the referral. But a lot of my children also see developmental pediatricians. I had a child who was diagnosed he was born actually with Down syndrome. And a lot of times with children who are born with Down syndrome, there are other things. He had issues with his heart and different things. So immediately he saw a developmental pediatrician. A developmental pediatrician, of course, is the pediatrician who works with children, but knows how to pinpoint those areas and has that connection to speak to, get the services, to help the child to get the necessary services. So there is a big difference. So I would definitely, if you have a child that has been diagnosed, again, I guess it's preference or choice. But if you have a child that's definitely been diagnosed on the spectrum or Down syndrome, try to definitely get a developmental pediatrician to assist, because they have the resources and they're within the network to ensure that your child receives all the services as well.
Thank you for that information. There is a difference, again, between a pediatrician and a developmental pediatrician.
That is correct.
Awesome. Okay. What, based on what you do, how has the integration of technology been helpful to you in this field, or not?
Technology, when it comes to my field, it could be a hit or miss. When I'm working with my children, I try not to use too much technology. And I'm going to explain to you why. Especially with children on the spectrum. Sometimes children on the spectrum, kids like video games, right? Kids like video games. And I tell you one thing, a lot of my kids may not be able to talk and do other things, but one thing they can do, they can take that finger and slide it and turn on mommy's phone and get to the code and everything else. I think that is wonderful. They're using fine motor skills. They're able to view things. A lot of them learn songs. However, what happens is sometimes kids become too caught up into it. Okay. It becomes, I'm trying to think of the word it is. They become, I won't say desensitized. They become overstimulated. That's the word I'm looking for. They become overstimulated. And I have kids, that's all they want to do is do and play with it all the time. And that's wonderful. And my advice to parents with that is, it's okay. I'm not with the video games. I'm not a fan of the video games. But again, that's parents' preference. But if you're going to allow them to do the iPad or the tablet, pick educational songs and games, things with numbers, concepts, anything with cognitive, anything that's going to help them with their speech, with their cognitive development. I always tell parents, please don't leave them on there for 2 and 3 hours. If it's an hour, I like to always tell parents to break it up into 15-minute intervals. So in the morning time when they get up, maybe after breakfast, you want to do something with them, do something. Definitely, I believe in hands-on, but everyone's schedule is different. Give them something. Okay, you may throw on an ABC song. Let them play the ABC song or some colors or some shapes. You can do it as a routine. Okay, after 15 minutes, okay, turn it off. Do something else. Maybe later on, right before lunch or right after lunch, another maybe 15 minutes. Maybe sometime during the day, if you've done something, maybe you do have something to do. You want to keep them busy for a few minutes, another. And maybe right before bed, but break it up. Please don't allow the children to be on there for 2 and 3 hours. They become so fixated. And what has happened in my case is I've walked into the homes where the parents, I tell them all the time, have my kids ready. That means they need to have had a nap. They need to have been fed, diapers changed, and ready to work and have the station. I like to have everything set up. Please do not have them on the iPad. So a lot of times I've walked into homes where they have the TV on. They have had on the iPad and they have had on the tablet. That is a no-no, because what happens is it then becomes a battle with us turning off the TV and everything. And you can also order the tablet, and you can also use it as a reward system. You can use it as an incentive, but I don't think technology should be the main focus of how you teach a child. Definitely. And also with technology, what was happening is because of COVID, we weren't allowed to go into the homes. So we were doing teletherapy. Teletherapy is basically where we would meet online, whether it's FaceTime or Zoom, and whether it's 30 minutes or sometimes up to 2 hours. And that's where the challenge became. And we would provide therapy with the children. Since we weren't able to see the children in person, we did a teletherapy. So with me, during COVID, what I did was I turned my living room into my personal. It became therapy. I put toys around. I tried to align toys with toys and materials with what the parents already had. So we did that. A lot of times it was challenging because a lot of children do not work well with teletherapy or online. So it became a challenge, but we kind of worked through it. And I'm going to tell you, and a lot of parents, I'm going to be honest, because of their work schedule, or some parents just don't want to, or just don't have the patience to sit there one-to-one and work, because it has to be, you cannot allow, the therapist just cannot sit there and just work with the child while the parent is off doing their own thing. So it has to be, again, a collaborative effect. So a collaborative effort. So some therapy, teletherapy works. Some parents were like, forget it. But then after COVID, a lot of parents were canceling. They were like, before COVID, we can't do it. But when they saw that there was a gap in services and their children were regressing, going backwards, they wanted the therapy. But as soon as, we started opening up a little bit more, and we started, therapists were allowed to go into the homes, parents were like, okay, come back, because now they started to see how important it was. So again, technology, it varies for different people. Some people don't work good online. Some people don't work well with technology. It depends. Everyone is different. So now a lot of my clients I'm seeing in person, of course, with the new, the guidelines, we're not allowed to bring toys or materials into the home. We can only bring our, whatever notes or sessions. We have to come with masks, hands wiped, and surveys and everything else to make sure everyone, is doing what they're supposed to do. 6 feet, whatever the guidelines are. We have to do the same thing now that we are providing services, and slowly but surely going back into the home. But a lot of parents are still requesting teletherapy. But again, each case varies.
Okay. Miss Tisa said, I've seen a 3-year-old throw a serious tantrum when taking technology away. But I think that what you're talking about is really, and what she's saying is something that happens with kids, period. It's not whether they're special needs or not. I think if you start them on the technology, then that's how it becomes. It becomes
fixated. And I see it all the time. Parents are out in public. It goes back to parenting. Again, even though I have a background in behavior, and I was having this discussion with a parent, a new client, I was explaining, no is no. Okay. You have to, with little ones also, you have to pick and choose your battles. Everything sometimes can't always be no, but a lot of times you have to set it. If that 3-year-old is throwing something or having a tantrum, 9 times out of 10, mommy has given in to him and allowed him to have that tablet. And there has to be a point where, because he or she has to learn no. Because what's going to happen is, if he thinks it's okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a tantrum. I'm going to show out and embarrass mommy, because that is how I get what I have to get. So the parent at some point has to set the rules and no. Okay. Everything is, back in the days, we got taps. I don't believe in necessarily all situation. That's personal choice. I don't believe in tapping a kid. You can talk to children nowadays, but I would take that iPad, and he has to earn it, or she has to earn it. I said no. No is no. And if they have a tantrum and scream, let them politely scoop them up and put them back in the car, or put them wherever you need to do. And everyone has to be on board. Mommy, daddy, grandma. So if mom and dad say no, grandmas, because we love our grandmothers, but grandmothers give in to the children. They let them have, let the baby have whatever she wants. Let him have whatever he wants. Okay. No is no. because kids know how to manipulate. They learn at an early age. So with that, I would say he or she has to earn it. You do not tantrum. So when you tantrum and you act up, guess what? I take away the iPad. I take away the tablet. You can cry. Crying never hurt anybody. As long as they're not banging their head or anything like that. Yes, it's embarrassing. No parent wants to whatever. Let them have a thing. I would politely scoop them up, put them in there, politely go in or whatever. But he or she, and you have to stand your ground. No is no. I'm for that. I hear it all the time. Oh my God, you give in to them and they know. I had this with this parent the other day. You give in to him. Who's the boss here? He clearly thinks he's running the show. He's not running the show. You're the parent. And this only becomes worse because then they become adult. They come from toddlers, then they become young children, and then they become teenagers, and this becomes a pattern. And then parents want to know along the way, well, why he doesn't listen to me, why he doesn't respect, because it starts at an early age. It starts at early. You don't have to rule all the time. Our parents, our generation was different. It's what our parents said, because if we did any of that, we would have got it. But now, because you're not allowed to do that anymore, because that involves ACS and child protective services and all that other stuff. We don't do that because it's stuff that our parents used to do. And I just found out something the other day based on that we got, let's be honest. I believe in transparency. We got popped with belts or whatever. That's considered a weapon. You're not allowed to hit a child or anything with that. But again, I don't think a lot of times, it's a totally different world. We're living in a different world now. So based on that, you have to talk to children. I like to talk to children. And again, I believe you just have to pick and choose your battles, especially when you're working with special needs children. A lot of times, sometimes they don't understand and they don't comprehend. But a lot of times kids do understand and comprehend, and they know how to manipulate as well. So you have to set the rules up at the beginning. I said, no, this is what, when you do this, you get this. When you don't do this, I take away this.
I love it. All right, everybody, we're going to take a break and then we'll be back with Dr. Sparks on the recipe.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, comedian actress Coca Brown. And I got to give a huge shout out to my girl, Dr. Stephanie Finney, because she put me on. To the Jewel Sanitary napkin. These babies are amazing. Not only are they good to me, they're good for me. Not only do they help with absorption, moisture control, and protection, because yes, sometimes I like to wear white, but these babies also have a great ingredient called graphene that helps with cramps. Huh? Are you kidding me? So you're telling me that I'm protected and I can control my moods a little bit? I love it. So please make sure you hit up my girl, Dr. Stephanie Finney. They have a variety of sizes for every kind of flow, whether it's heavy, light, overnight, she got you. So make sure you hit up my girl, Dr. Stephanie Finney, and get you some Jewel Sanitary napkins today. I strongly endorse these, honey, especially if you're like me. You need all the help you can get for that time of the month. All right?
All right, everybody, welcome back to the recipe. I have author and educator, Dr. Katrina Sparks, with us today.
I'm here.
All right, great. So what do you think is the greatest challenge facing students today?
We always, with students, any age, I'm saying the world we're living in right now. I think, if anything, this pandemic, I have seen and heard everything. I think this pandemic has, choose my words carefully. I've seen things, I have heard things. I believe a lot of our kids have been truthful and honest. And this pandemic has brought out some good things. It's brought out some not so nice things. There's a need, I think, a lot of times with our children. I find our children, they're missing coming to school. At one time, certain kids didn't like coming to school. They miss coming to school. They miss being with their friends. They miss just, what was considered the norm. And, I don't think we'll ever get back to the norm ever again, but we're trying to get back to some part of being normal again. But I think the kids miss that. Being in the house, for some, it was good. It brought families closer together. But in some cases, it wasn't so good because kids saw a lot of things. And it depends on, in any house, sometimes in most houses, there's a lot of dysfunction. And you've had kids who have been in their houses with their parents with the dysfunction and seen a lot of things that they shouldn't have seen. And that's a sad thing. And as a result, they have suffered academically, socially, and emotionally. And I think a lot about our kids who, for whatever reason, are in their families that are in shelters. I think, if anything, they have been affected the most. And I think what is wonderful is a lot of our schools, the systems have reached out or tried to make the necessary attempts to reach out to the shelters and make sure the kids, because one thing that was with where I work in my district, we have certain students that are in shelters. The biggest thing was the getting them iPads. So we made sure the students were able to get iPads. So when they got the iPads, no problem. But was it the internet? A lot of them don't have Wi-Fi and the internet. So that became a challenge. So you saw a lot of kids, missing out on that, academically. But you did see a lot of teachers and educators and everyone step to the front to make sure go above and beyond. And a lot of companies were giving free internet and offering all types of incentives and different things, Wi-Fi and everything. And, it was just a matter of just getting access and getting to it. So with our kids, I would like to think that many of them survived. Again, we have a lot of, drug addiction, alcoholism, domestic violence. And, my heart goes out especially to those kids because it's there. But I guess it was really, really there. They saw a lot more things that they weren't supposed to see as kids. Kids were not kids. They were seeing and doing things. A lot of them had to take care of their siblings. So imagine you be a single mother or a mother and father. And now that your kid is home, not only do you have to handle your schoolwork, but you also have to take care of your siblings because either your parents are not working or your parents have to go to work. And not only you have to navigate between doing your work and logging on and also taking care of your siblings. So as educators, we had to learn how to, to just certain things we had to okay, this can't be a regular school setting. We have to, let it be. Or we would have I had an incident where a colleague of mine was she had a student. He was in high school. He had to take care of a baby brother and she would hear the baby brother. She was like, that's okay. As long as you logged in, you let me see your face, you do the work or whatever, put me on mute, go take care of your brother. We had to just learn how to learn to deal with that. So everyone is dealing, the kids especially. We always say the adults, but we don't think about the kids, just not only missing their friends, just the more responsibilities that these kids had to take on.
And the things that they've seen, some of them.
They've seen, I've heard some stuff, I've heard, and there was a case where I believe where the teacher and the students, they witnessed domestic violence. Something about the camera was on and they saw things that they weren't supposed to see. And as a result, I believe the teacher had to call it in because they saw it in the witness. But could you imagine how that affected someone? Students who are watching your classmate, you see your classmate all the time, and because of COVID, you don't see them, but now you have to see them more, what they have, what they're dealing with. And that's not only, I only also think about the students who, some don't come from the best home situations. And a lot of times they would have the cameras off because they didn't want everyone to see their home, their home situations, their environments. So a lot of that, the embarrassment of being embarrassed, is, okay, I got to log on, but at the same time, I don't want anyone to see my, what my house looks like. I don't live in the best area, the best conditions. So that, and again, it varied from different teachers because there were some educators who said, listen, I want the cameras on. They treated it like a classroom. And then it was just some that, I'm just going to listen. As long as you're coming in, you logging in and you're doing your work and keeping up and doing what you have to do. Let me see your face. Let me hear you and log, So it varies. So these kids have had to deal with a lot of stuff. I know they had suspended. They had stopped doing the state testing. And I thought that was necessary. I really don't think at this point for the next couple of years, again, that's my opinion, they should state testing. It has to be put to the side because no one is in, we're trying to teach the kids. Now you want them prepared for the test. It's not right now. They should put that on hold for now.
I'm with you 100% because we have SOLs here. where I'm at. And they're still trying to do them, although they're not mandatory. And I'm like, well, if it's not mandatory and it's not going to change them going to the next grade, then we're going to opt out. And we need to go ahead and get rid of them anyway, because I didn't like them before COVID. And now we need to just get rid of them because it's not working. It's not working. And they are using those tests to base kids going to the next grade level. And that's a problem for me, because they could be doing very well in their schoolwork, but if they don't pass that test, then they can't go to the next level. That doesn't make sense.
Some kids are not good test takers, to be honest with you. Academically, they're on point, but some kids are just not, people are not good test takers, and it varies to each kid. I just think at this point, like I said, we're living in a pandemic and everyone has been affected, and we really need to pay close attention to the children. Again, districts, states vary. Some have the resources, but some, everyone's trying to live day by day and get through this. It seems to be a little bit light at the end of the tunnel. That is my prayer. But our kids, listen, I think at this point, kids should be kids. Make sure they're doing their academics. I think they definitely need to log on and do their work and still, do the requirements, whatever. But as far as this testing and all this other stuff, and if they need to take a day, they need to take a day, because these kids are dealing with a lot. We always think the adults, but the kids are dealing with a lot. And imagine kids who are special needs kids, especially a child that's on the spectrum, that is used to routine, getting up in the morning, going and getting on the bus, doing this and this and this and this. And now the parent who is the caregiver has to be with that child all the time. And that was another challenge, and it continues to be a challenge. We have a lot of children, special needs children. How are those that are remote, that are at home, how are they getting resources? A lot of them are not getting the speech and the PT and the OT. Some were able to get some of the services online, but there's just been a gap. So think of all of the time that has been lost. We're talking about over a year now, and the milestones that have been missed because they weren't able to get those necessary services. So we have a lot to do. So I think certain things need to be put to the side right now. I think kids need to be kids. Awesome. We need to make sure that they're still getting what they need. We just got to be creative with everything now.
Awesome. You actually answered one of my other thoughts of what are your hopes for what the future holds for children. And I know one of them is that they can be children again.
I want them to be children again. They need to play. They need to put away the video games. Let them go. Put away the video games. Yes. Let's go back to bubbles and balls and hula hoops and jump ropes and monkey bars and slides. Let the kids go in there. Let them run. They just need to be free. Put them out in the fields. Just let them run and be kids. And they just need to. And a lot of kids don't do that, especially kids that are in the inner city. Everyone doesn't live in a nice house. Yeah. Everyone is not in the suburbs. A lot of urban areas, and kids can't because there's things that are going on. It's the environment they live in. We have to worry about the pandemic being, the 6 feet, the distance and everything else, and kids. And a lot of kids haven't been able to be kids and do that because they've been cooped up in the house all day. And some are just now, within the last couple of months, going back to school. Mm-hmm. So it varies. And I definitely think more schools, or just in general, with our special needs population, or just in general, we need to do wellness checks on our kids. How are you doing? I mean, some of us do that, but how are you doing? Are we having our psychologists, our psychiatrists, our social workers, our counselors checking in with the kids, like even the general ed kids, just kids in general? How you doing? They need to talk. They need to get all of that out. They have a lot of stuff going on right now, and we need to be mindful of that. We always think, oh, they're just kids. They don't have a job or whatever. They have their own things going on. Again, each house, each family varies. So we need to be mindful of that as well. Absolutely.
Well, this is more of a personal question. What would you like to be remembered for?
Ooh, would that be my legacy?
Yes, ma'am.
Ooh, what I would like to be remembered for. I would like to be remembered for just giving to children, to my community, just giving back to anyone who needs. I want them to say, yeah, she was a little tough. She could be a little brash, but at the end of the day, Dr. Sparks, she was loving. It was coming from a good place. If she stayed on my case, it was coming from a good place. So if I stay on your case and I'm after you, that means I really care and I see the potential. If I don't say anything, I kind of, I'm gonna just let you be. But 9 times out of 10, I'm constantly on it because I see the potential. I don't care what anyone's going through, whether you could do the worst of the worst. You know, I always believe that we were put on this earth to be great, regardless. Whether you've been incarcerated, something, your life was not over. You've done things that your life, that is your past. It's what you learn and you've taken from that lesson. You take it, and what are you going to do now? So I would like to, there's good in everybody, and everybody has the potential to do. I want everybody to, I always see the potential, especially my special needs populations. They're always being told what they can't do, what the deficiencies and disability, what they have abilities. And we need to see that. And we need to tap into that. They just probably need to be modified. We just need to tap into that. So I want to be remembered as that person who definitely did that. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Dr. Sparks, for taking time out of your day to connect on the recipe. This has been a phenomenal conversation on education, not just in the area of special needs, but just education, period. And I just thank you so much. Before I go, if you are on Instagram, please connect to my IG Live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as I top off the night with the final serving of health and wellness in the area of feminine healthcare. And for any men out there, please do not shy away from this topic, because if you have important women in your life, you also need to know about this information. I also host a Bible study on Tuesday nights with Elder Michael Coleman, titled the same, The Recipe. Feel free to join anytime on Instagram. Well, that's it for me. Again, I hope you enjoyed this segment of The Recipe with Dr. Sparks. See you next time on The Recipe as I bring you all the ingredients for living your best life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the packaging, it says Jewel on it. And she sent me so many different, it's for moderate flow, heavy flow. Hold on. And this was my favorite.
That is my favorite.
I can always appreciate an overnight, but what I was really impressed by was the length, how long it was.
And how it's not as thick.
If you guys still get those monthly friends, sometimes that thing could just be out of control and never do what you asked it to do. It'd be all over the place. But honestly, I had absolutely no problems at all. And I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate this product so good, because a lot of people, they want to send you stuff, and it's like, okay, you want to believe in everybody, but everybody's product is not a good product, especially something when it comes to feminine hygiene and sanitary this and you got to be very careful, because sometimes, whatever the stuff is made with, it don't always agree with your body chemistry. But I had absolutely no problems, and I wouldn't even say this if I didn't mean it. I gave the girls in my podcast, they use it. My podcast member, she don't even use sanitary napkins. She's like a tampon girl. Mm-hmm. But she really appreciated this, and I thought, I have to tell you this. I couldn't wait to get on here to tell you this. So for everybody that's on here that's still going through them, getting those monthly visits of this, please support Dr. Finney's business. I tried it myself, and I loved it.
Wow. Thank you so